babes, welcome back to Turning Pages with Jazz. If you are new here, my name is Jasmine. You can call me Jazz. I discuss all things books, sometimes lifestyle, and every now and then hair content. So if you like what you see, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. For all of my returning babes, thank you for sticking around with your girl. And today we're discussing books, so let's get into it. For the month of May, your girl read a total of 23 books. I had an average rating of 3.42. Most of the books I read on my Kindle, as you know, and I think I had like maybe one physical copy and then one book that I listened to on audio. And I have to say, this month I probably had my most DNFs. I think I DNF'd either 3 or 4 books, and we definitely will get into those. So first up, I started the book off reading Mr. Calderon by Nay Ray. If you remember, I read part 1 of that book last month, Permission, which was erotica novella, and then this one was a full-length novel, part 2, that picked up where that story left off. I gave this book a 3.25. As you know, last month I loved the first book. I gave it 4 stars. But I think what happened for me was, and when it started off, I love the pacing. It got right into it, no gaps left in between, right into where we ended. But about 50% in, the book just got really slow paced and it just seemed to drag. And I really feel like it didn't take 400 pages to kind of wrap up this story. If we remember, it focused around Issa and Jonah, and I just feel like the way things were handled throughout was just like a lot of miscommunication. And it's just like, baby, if y'all would have just said what you said, baby, this relationship could have got into it and been what you guys both were looking for. Overall, the second book was just okay. If I had to recommend it, I would give it a maybe, but definitely I really enjoyed the first book. Next, I read Conflicted Hearts by Kay Shane. This was a new to me author. I had not read anything by her before. This book was messy. It basically follows the MMC and FMC, who basically, the FMC had a twin sister. They both dated basically best friend. And when I tell you, when the book first starts off, it gets right into the trauma where a tragic event happens and it leaves both one of the twin sisters and the husband of the other twin basically as widows. Is where the story starts off at. And I did not see the twist that was coming in this book. It was very fast paced. This is a forbidden romance, so if that is not something that you like, this is a taboo romance. So just go into that with that in mind. The only thing I didn't like within, I just wanted the second guessing of Sienna, like, girl, make up your mind. If you're going to go through with this, if you're going to move forward, that's what you want. Stand 10 toes down. Don't let nobody sway your decision, because Drew wasn't second guessing anything. Like, once he made his mind up that, hey, this is what I'm going to do, this is what makes me happy, he was standing on big business. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 3.75 stars. I would definitely pick up something else from this author's catalog. Then I read Kyrie and Phi, a Charleston love story by Mel Dahl. This was my first read by this author. I think I got this book during the Brave event. It's a series, I think a total of 4 books, but I only read the very first book. It is like a novella. It was only maybe about 180 or so pages. It was a quick read. I just found the story to just be okay. I think for me, it had a lot of grammatical errors within it, and I just couldn't really get into it, so I gave it 2.75 stars. After that, I read His Remedy to the Madness, a Waynesville love story by Aubrey Penn. Man, this story was really beautifully written. One thing about Aubrey Penn that I do like, she knows how to pull in a side character that you're just going to fall in love with. And this was no difference. I love Sweet Lick Ernie. just that story of having to deal with a parent that has dementia and how to navigate that within those final days. This was such a beautifully done. I gave this story 4 stars. I would definitely say tap into this if you have not. This is a standalone, so it's not tied to a series or anything, so you can just read it as is. After that, I read a series called Set Me Free by Genesis Carter. This was my first read. This is a new to me author. I got the books during the Brave event. Total of 3 books. The first one was Set Me Free. The second one was Love's Free Will. And then the last one was Free to Fall. The books basically focus on 3 girls. Each book focuses on one of the girls they met basically in the first book during college. And they each have their own individual story. The very first story I really enjoyed. I believe I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It's a sports romance, friends to lovers, and a second chance romance all wrapped up into one. I really enjoyed this. It basically takes you on the journey of our MCs Creed and Serenity, who meet, like I said, when they're in college, and how it starts off a relationship as friends and how the roller coaster of that young love. I enjoyed that. Now, the next 2 books in the series I felt like were okay. Both I gave 3 stars. The first one was Love's Free Will. Love's Free Will. That one was a music romance, enemies to lovers. Basically, he falls first, and it focused on Avery's story. I just wish I would have gotten more details on what actually transpired between Avery and her mom at a particular point within the book, and I felt like the ending was very rushed. And then the other one, Free to Fall, this was a frenemies to lover, sneaky link turned true love. I did love how both of the MCs dealt with grief within that book. But again, I did feel like that one was a bit rushed as well. I think the last 2 books were both around like 250 or so pages, and the first book was like 400 pages, just so you know. After that, my girl Brandy on TikTok had recommended King and Queen of the Hood by Siobhan Latrice. This is a series that's a part of her older work. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think the book came out maybe in like either 2020, 2021, somewhere around that. If you read Toni, and if you know Toni and her series, then, and she gave all the Hood's finest, all the Hood's finest, then you will enjoy Crucial. He was crazy just as hell, just like Toni was. I think Toni still was a little bit more off than he was, but the first book just automatically pulled me in because it was so much going on. It popped off with the drama automatically. Like right from the jump, it got into it. Like the mess started to unfold. Chapter 1. This is told from multiple point of view. There are a lot of characters. So if you're a person that doesn't like multiple point of views, then I would say don't get into this series. And a lot of the books did leave on cliffhangers. I believe it's a total of 3 books. The very first book I gave was my favorite out of all of them. I gave 3.75 stars. And then 3 for the next 2 books. My thing with the next 2 books is I really didn't care for a lot of the side characters. For me, they could have just stayed focused on the main characters of Crucial and Drika. Everybody else, I really didn't care about their side stories. But overall, that was a good series. Then I read Watercolors by Evelyn Latrice. This was one of my, if not probably my favorite read this month. I gave it 4.25 star. Evelyn just knows how to do found family. Like she does that so well, and she never disappoints me, and she knows how to write a man. When it comes to writing an MMC that you're going to swoon over and fall in love with, Evelyn Latrice is going to give you that every time, and this one was no different with Wave, focused on Wave and Lumi, and basically how she had left home as soon as she could once she was able to go to college and never return due to something traumatic that has happened. So definitely please check your triggers before going into reading this story. And it definitely just takes you on a journey of finding love again and learning how to heal and grieve and, rebuilding trust. It beautifully done. I would definitely say so much growth was and so much character building was done within that. So definitely check out that story. It is a standalone. After that, I read Never Been Effed by Monet Paris. This is a quick little short. It's only about 40 pages. It is an erotica. So if that is not your thing, don't even worry about it, because baby, they get right into the business, So that's, if you know anything about Monet Paris, that's how her shorts are. So I gave that one 3 stars. After that, I read Moses by Sunshine's Urban Novellas. This is book 3 in the Unhinged Men series. I gave this one 3.25 stars. This is basically your best friend's girl. Yes, you heard that right. Moses was crazy as basically every man in this series was crazy. To me, he didn't play when it came to Genesis. He knew what he wanted, and he wasn't letting his best friend get in the way. That was going to be his woman, and baby, the only thing that stopped this from being even a higher read for me is I wanted more backstory of what happened during her birthday trip, in that prologue that got us to where we were at. Like, I wanted more backstory of how it led to them actually getting into a relationship. So that was the only thing, but overall, that was a good story. Out of the 3, so it was, the first one was Pyro, then Phantom, then Moses. I would say my favorite probably is still Pyro's story, followed by Moses, and then Phantom last. Then I got an advanced copy of Ember by Naima Simone. This is book 2 in the Hunted Kingdom series. This is also an enemies to lovers. The chemistry that between those 2 characters was through the roof. I love the balance of romance and tension. The characters, they felt really relatable. I love that the book was pretty fast paced. Like, it got right into it. It did not drag. It is a Cinderella retelling, and I feel like it did stick to that script. The only thing I didn't like was the pacing at the end seemed to be rushed. If you know how the story Cinderella goes, she goes to the ball, then the clock strikes 12, and she loses, her shoe. It's like once all that kind of transpired within this story retelling, it happened so fast. I looked up, I'm like, man, I'm only 90%. Is this going to end on a cliffhanger? Is there going to be a part 2? No, the story did get wrapped up, but it just seemed rushed. I gave it 3.75 stars. I really did enjoy it. And if you are a person that likes that mafia romance, I would say definitely check that one out. After that, I read The Quarter Queen by Kayla Hardy. This was also a new to me author. This was recommended by my girl Asha on TikTok. I listened to this one on audio. I gave it 4 stars. This is a fantasy, historical, dark romance. It is taking place in New Orleans. It focused in the 1840s around voodoo, and it's a layered mother-daughter relationship that also deals with, the hunting and magic system. This was really good. I really enjoyed the audio. The audio is about, I think, 16 hours, but it goes into dual timelines, between past and present, and it just reveals the history between the characters and the tension. I thought Kayla did an incredible job blending historical fiction with fantasy, and I'm not even a fantasy girly, and I can say I really enjoyed it. If you are, it does deal with heavy themes of racism, womanhood, legacy, and power, but I would say tap into that one. After that, I read the South Hearst Syndicate series by Dominique Black. This was a new to me author. It is a total of 5 books, I believe. The first book was Velvet and Venom. I gave that one 3.5 stars. The only thing I did not like, and this is just a personal preference, I'm one of those people that does not like when the FMC calls the MMC daddy outside of the bedroom. That is just cringe to me, and I just don't like that. But I did love how King did not play about Simone. The situation that occurred when she got freaked out by her mom, it came out of nowhere. And I just felt like it could have been better placed within the story. But other than that, that was a good read. After that was book 2 of it, called Sage and Sin. I gave that one 3.75 stars. It focuses on Moses. His story was so heavy, and I didn't expect that due to the character. He was that shoot 'em up, bang, bang, out of the group. and I didn't expect that from his book. But it dealt with a lot of serious topics, so please check your triggers. But I feel like I love the relationship between him and Yaya, and also just the conversation that Yaya had with her grandmother after the traumatic event that occurred. When her grandmother had said in there, she was like, basically Yaya was mentioning in the story, like, why did this happen? Why, God, why me type. And then for her grandmother was like, because he was God's first, like, he wasn't yours, he was God's first. Like, that brought me to tears. The only thing I didn't really care about, I did feel like the ending was a little bit rushed, but other than that, book 2 was a great story. Book 3 was probably my least favorite out the series. It was Beauty and Bonds. I gave that one 3 stars. This one was like really fast paced. It felt really rushed. I didn't really feel like the couple in that book needed to be together. They really gave me toxic energy, and I didn't really care for their love story. So that one, I almost DNF. Book 4 was probably my favorite. It was War and Wine. War and Wine. That one wasn't erotica. That one does deal with cheating, so if that is something you do not like, you may want to skip that. But Rock was crazy and delusional, and baby, he was not playing with Celeste. That was gonna be his woman, husband or not. He didn't care. Like, it was just so much. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of side-eyeing Celeste because I'm like, but baby, you've been married for 15 years and you're ready to risk it all for a man you just met. But after seeing all the secrets and stuff that got revealed, I was happy for my girl. But like I said, the spice is spicing. So just go into it knowing that. And then the last one was called Shadow Games. I gave that one 3.25 stars. It's basically your gentle giant MMC protector, is going to take care of his woman and handle business. This one also, check your triggers because it does discuss domestic violence. But I love that we finally got back to pull back the layers on this character. And I'm happy with how that series wrapped up. Overall, I would recommend that series. After that, I read Recklessly in Love with the Ruthless Savage by Bella Grace. I got this at the Brave event. This was a new to me author. This was a novella, only about 150 pages. I gave it 3 stars. The way this book started off, I didn't know if this was supposed to be a erotica or not. It was giving me a lot of erotica with a subplot of suspense. I feel like I didn't really actually get to the actual plot of the story until about halfway through. Not sure if that was the purpose or not, but for that one, it was just an okay read to me. Then I read Hidden Desires by Nair Rashad and I think Valerie Renee. I think it's 2 authors that did this book. It is basically a series. This is an erotica. Let me tell you that, baby. Erotica. But it is an erotica with a subplot of drama and suspense. I gave the book, the series, 3.25 stars. Baby, this was very messy, a lot of drama. It basically deals with what happens, when people have open marriages or are very sexually fluid and things that can come with that. I enjoyed this. This is older work. I think this book maybe came out in, if I'm not mistaken, I think like 2015 or so. It was another book that was new to me author that I got at the Brave event, but I did enjoy that. Then I read Collateral Love by L.B. Gaines. This is book 2 in that series. I think I read the last one either last month or the month before, which is Bulletproof Love. I really enjoyed that one. This one, I was actually surprised because if you know, I didn't really care for Yaya in the first book, but baby, I didn't know that she was the HBIC. She was handling business, and I really gained a lot more respect for her in this book. For me, the book started off strong, but then the ending kind of dragged for my liking. I gave it 3.25 stars, and I believe there is going to be a 3rd book that'll wrap up this series. And then the last book I read was Gold 2. This is book 2 in that series by Sarah Fina. I had been waiting for Gold to come out since reading the last one last year. this was a thickie. This book is 700 some pages. So really both books, I believe the first book is the same. It is multiple point of views. So if you do not like that, this with a lot of characters in this book. And it picks up where book 2 left off. If you already read, it's going to pick up right where that book left off and gets right into the drama of things that's currently going on with Gold and how she's dealing with picking up the pieces after how things ended with her and Rich. This was a lot. This book is a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't mad at Gold for basically being a single woman and doing what single women do. Like I'm not trying to be tied down to one man, but she had to know the drama that was going to bring. And baby, that ending with that cliffhanger, Serafina, I'm going to need that book 3 to come stat. I'm gonna need to come 3 stat. Oh my God, I felt so bad for India. You know, that was my girl in book 1, and the way E did that ending, he pissed me off. He definitely pissed me off. The side characters also had a lot going on, but I wanted more growth with a lot of the side characters, but also I could do without Tamia Stone. Work my nerves. I'm over Tiff. I want her up out of there come book 3. But overall, I did enjoy that one. So let's get into the books that I DNF. So as I told you, I had 3 DNFs. The first one was A Love Like This Part 1 by Kaya Montage, I believe it's the name. This was a book I got during the Brave End. It is also a series. It was book 1. I DNF'd it, I think, maybe about 40% through. The book to me had a lot of potential. It just felt very flat for me. And I don't know if I just wasn't in the mood at the time because I had just come off of reading Watercolors by Evelyn Latrice and I was in such a high. And then starting reading this right after, it was just like, So I may go back to it at a later date, but it just wasn't for me at the time being. Also, Captured by a Thug, but Loving the Plug by Princess Chanel was another novella type book that I DNF. I DNF this one at like 24%. I didn't like it. I didn't care for the story at all. It just wasn't for me. And then the third book that I DNF was Addicted to You by Sunshine's urban novella. This one, I'm not sure if it was supposed to be erotica or not. If so, it was strictly sex, no plot. I read it to about a little over 50%, and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting any really story. You know, it was just strictly sex. If you like that, I feel like you enjoy it, but for me, I needed a little bit more plot. So those were the 3 books that I DNF this month. Overall, I would say this month was just an okay, reading month for me. Like I said, my favorite was Watercolors by Evelyn Latrice. I enjoyed that one the most. I would say then followed by The Quarter Queen by Kayla Hardy. And then, of course, War and Wine by Dominique Black would have been my top 3. Let me know down in the comments, what did you guys read this month? Did you DNF any books? And I will talk to you guys later, and we will see how next month goes. Bye, guys.